You're back early. What's wrong? My grandson, who was supposed to be at the company entrance ceremony, returned home with a gloomy expression. I worried and peered into his face, and he started talking about something outrageous. I can't forgive them. I'll get revenge for sure. I am 65 years old and run a factory. Now, I live with my grandson, Harrison. I had been recognized for my achievements at the company I previously worked for and was involved in a new business venture in a developing country, which kept me away from the U.S. for many years. I lost my wife a long time ago, and back then, I was also estranged from my son. So I was happy to be acknowledged for my skills and gladly went overseas. It was more challenging than I had imagined, and I couldn't even contact the U.S. During that time, my son, Harrison's father, got into an accident and passed away along with his wife. This happened 10 years ago. Harrison was in elementary school when he lost his parents. I returned to the U.S. 5 years ago. I decided to visit my son's family to see how they were doing. However, when I arrived at their house, a woman I didn't know answered the door. Had they moved? Given how distant we had become, it wouldn't be surprising. But when I mentioned my son's name, the woman's brow furrowed.
There's no one by that name here,
She said, closing the door. Yet, I noticed the clock I had given my son as a wedding gift in the hallway. Puzzled, I turned away. As I did, a young man in work clothes walked towards me. Though in work attire, he looked young, perhaps a high school student. He squinted at me for a moment and then said,
Grandpa.
"Could it be? Are you my grandson, Harrison?" I thought Harrison was still in high school. The young man approached me and said,
It's me, Harrison.
I was astonished. My son and I had fallen out over a minor disagreement and hadn't been in contact. I recalled that it started when he suggested that we live together. In hindsight, he was concerned about my health due to my busy work schedule. However, back then, I still felt young and didn't think I needed anyone worrying about me, so I couldn't accept my son's words. I used to visit Harrison often, and we would play together, but my son and I were both stubborn, and we had a falling out just as the overseas business opportunity arose. After I left the U.S., I started thinking that I'd apologize once I returned. Every few months, I received letters from my daughter-in-law with photos of Harrison and updates on him. But eventually, those letters stopped coming, and now I finally understood why. Harrison took me to a nearby park, saying he couldn't talk at home, and we sat on a bench. He revealed that my son had died in an accident. The woman at the house was my daughter-in-law's sister. When she heard about the accident, she offered to take care of Harrison and moved into the house, giving up her apartment. But in reality, she was forcing Harrison to do all the housework while she spent her time enjoying herself. Harrison wanted to go to high school, but she told him they couldn't afford it, so he started working part-time to cover living expenses after graduating from middle school. I regretted my ignorance during such a difficult time. However, Harrison reassured me.
It's not your fault, Grandpa.
He mentioned that he now had a job at a factory, which seemed to be due to my influence.
My goal is to be like you, Grandpa.
Harrison said, looking a bit embarrassed. He had always been a kind child, and despite the circumstances, he remained the same. After losing his parents, Harrison was bullied at school, particularly by John, the son of a local business owner, who often looked down on him. John would say things like,
"You're too poor to go to high school, huh?
and
It's sad you don't have parents." My dad's a CEO, so I live without any worries.
In front of everyone. Harrison told me.
I didn't have a place at school or home, but thinking about you working hard overseas made me want to be like you. It gave me the strength to keep going.
I was deeply touched by his words. First, I drove Harrison's aunt out of the house. Then, I made her promise to repay the money she had taken from the savings that Harrison should have inherited from his parents. Harrison asked me to live with him, and that's how we started living together. I offered to cover his school expenses and provide support if he wanted to continue his education, but he said,
I'm starting to enjoy my work now.
He explained that colleagues at his workplace gave him textbooks their kids no longer used, and he studied on his own. For now, he wasn't considering going back to school. Harrison had grown up so well without me realizing it. I started running a factory here that manufactures parts. Harrison told me that he studied hard because he wanted to be useful to me someday. Over the years, I even obtained a patent. Although the factory is small, many companies recognize our capabilities. Some clients treat us as subcontractors and make unreasonable demands, but using our patented parts benefits our reputation, so we tolerate it to some extent. A few years later, Harrison turned 22 and secured a job with a local company. He wanted to work as a full-time employee, gain solid technical skills, and eventually work at my factory. While I thought he could start at my factory right away, he said,
If the boss's grandson works here without any real skills, it would make things difficult for everyone.
Though I understood his point, I felt a bit lonely hearing that. However, it was wonderful news that Harrison secured a job. I gifted him a wristwatch, and he wore it as he left for the entrance ceremony. Just as I began preparing a special meal to celebrate, the doorbell rang. To my surprise, Harrison was standing at the door. Did you forget something? The entrance ceremony should have already started, right? I blurted out, thinking he had only been gone for 5 minutes. Harrison pulled something out of his bag and showed it to me. Seeing it made my blood boil instantly.
They gave me this name tag.
He said. The tag read middle school dropout, incompetent. I couldn't believe it. When I asked him what happened, he explained.
When I arrived at the entrance ceremony, I saw John, my classmate from middle school. I didn't know this, but his father is the president of the company.
Harrison looked dejected. While he knew John was the son of a CEO, he didn't know which company. John had approached him with a smirk and handed him this name tag. And to make things worse, John said,
I was surprised to see you made it through the interview. I saw the new hires list, and there was your name, middle school dropout, incompetent. How did a poor guy like you get in?
John, boasting about being the future president, claimed he helped out with company chores, which must be how he saw the list. Harrison recounted this to me.
He told me it must have been a mistake that I passed the interview. I was furious, but I couldn't disrupt the entrance ceremony. At the same time, I couldn't wear this tag to the ceremony.
Harrison's voice grew quieter. He had thought about asking other employees for help, but John blocked him from doing so. John laughed as he watched Harrison leave in defeat. I couldn't stand it any longer and took out my phone. When the person on the other end answered, I said, Hello, Jason? He responded with surprise.
What's this about? You're not going to tell me the delivery deadline can't be met, are you?
I replied, No, it's not that. Taking a breath before firmly stating, We're ceasing the use of our patented parts at your company. We will no longer conduct any business with you. He responded.
What? What do you mean?
The person on the other end was none other than Jason, the president of the company where Harrison had secured a job. He is also John's father. This company has been a client since I established my factory. Back then, I went around to local companies, humbly seeking business partners. Jason's company offered me orders at below market prices. I accepted, thinking it was necessary until the factory was up and running. When I obtained a patent, Jason wanted to buy the patented parts at a bargain price. I didn't agree to his terms entirely, but when he said,
We've been doing business with you since you started.
I couldn't refuse too strongly. Since then, he has referred to us as a subcontractor and made unreasonable demands. Even now, with our factory on stable footing, we maintained the relationship out of obligation. However, losing their business wouldn't affect us. I said, I've never heard of a company giving a name tag labeled middle school dropout, incompetent to a new hire. Such a company can't be trusted. Considering your behavior as well, there's no benefit in continuing our business relationship. Jason was taken aback. Realizing he was at a disadvantage, he suddenly adopted a more submissive tone.
What exactly do you mean?
He asked. We don't need to supply our patented parts to them, but I know they can't make their products without them. Despite this, the president has always had an arrogant attitude, which I can't understand. It's too late for him to change his attitude now. I said, your company had its entrance ceremony today, right? Continuing, I explained. My grandson went to the entrance ceremony and was given an outrageous name tag by your son. Is this something you can overlook as a president? Jason was flustered.
My son? There's no way my son would do such a thing, right?
Though he said this, I could sense his panic. This name tag appears to be handwritten. A handwriting analysis could easily reveal the culprit. How do you think your company's reputation would fare if such rumors spread? I pressed. Jason was visibly distressed.
Wait a moment. Let me check with my son.
But there was nothing to check. Harrison had already told me everything. I said, there's no need for confirmation. As I said, we're stopping all business with your company. I hung up the phone. An hour later, an employee informed me that Jason had come to the factory. Although I had taken the day off to celebrate Harrison's entrance ceremony, I went to the factory with Harrison. Jason's car was parked outside, and a young man about Harrison's age was fiddling with his phone in the passenger seat. That must be John. Looking towards the factory, I saw a nervous-looking Jason, who immediately rushed over to me. Unlike his usual condescending demeanor, he was oddly deferential.
It's been a while. You must be Harrison. Why did you leave the ceremony? We were waiting for you.
Jason said with a forced smile. Harrison, without smiling, showed him the name tag.
Do you think I could attend the ceremony with this?
He asked. Jason's smile turned into a grimace.
Harrison, I heard you're a classmate of John. He meant it as a joke, thinking you were friends. He didn't expect you to take it seriously and leave. Here, this is your official name tag. We had it all along,
He said, handing over a tag. It was a weak excuse. Harrison, emotionless, calmly responded.
That format is different from the ones distributed at the ceremony today.
Jason's face turned pale. I stepped in. Did John make the name tag that says middle school dropout, incompetent? I asked. Jason looked at me and was at a loss for words, which confirmed my suspicion. They might have made a proper name tag afterward, but it was too late. As the president, it's understandable that you might not know about the specifics of the name tags for the ceremony. However, it's your fault that your son doesn't know right from wrong. Your son's behavior is a reflection of your own, taking advantage of a new factory and looking down on us. Jason turned pale and said,
I apologize.
Harrison sighed. I told Jason. When I found out Harrison's job was at your company, I told him about your attitude. Harrison wanted to experience various companies and learn from them, so I didn't stop him. Harrison nodded in agreement. Jason apologized again.
I apologize.
His insincere apologies made me even angrier. Is all you can do repeat empty apologies? Your son did this, right? He's in the car playing with his phone. Why hasn't he come out to apologize? He clearly doesn't think he did anything wrong, does he? Jason turned pale and rushed to the car, dragging a reluctant John out. When John stood before Harrison, he muttered an insincere apology.
I'm sorry.
Just like his father. Harrison was calmly furious.
If you don't mean it, I don't want an apology.
Harrison said, I may have only finished middle school, but I don't deserve to be called incompetent. At the very least, I think I'm more competent than someone who doesn't understand the consequences of their actions. John glared at Harrison, but Jason restrained him and forced a nervous smile.
Harrison, we're looking forward to seeing you at work tomorrow.
Jason said, attempting to smooth things over. Harrison firmly responded,
No, after such humiliation, I have no desire to work for your company. It doesn't seem like there's anything valuable for me to gain there.
I nodded and shifted the conversation. Regarding the patent parts, it's time for our contract renewal this month. With rising material costs, I was planning on increasing the unit price. However, as I mentioned earlier, our contract with your company is terminated. We will not be doing business with you anymore. I stated this matter-of-factly. Jason was desperate and pleaded.
This is a serious problem. Without those parts, our products can't be completed.
I laughed at Jason's desperation. The one who's been struggling until now is us. It's mutual, don't you think? This is your own doing, I said. Jason, flustered, stammered.
No, it's just that.
I cut him off. You've always made unreasonable demands, like lowering prices and speeding up delivery times, and we've done our best to comply. But with what happened to my grandson, I've made my decision. We will no longer do business with your company. At this, Jason's expression changed dramatically. He grabbed John's head and tried to push him into a bow.
John, apologize. Get on your knees and apologize right now.
John resisted.
What are you doing?
He said, shaking off his father's hand. An argument between father and son ensued. I sighed and said, I think we're done here. If you're going to fight, do it outside. We have trucks coming in, so move your car. I then sent them away. Jason tried coming to the factory a few more times, but I refused to deal with him. The incident at the induction ceremony was witnessed by other new employees, so it spread it on social media and caused a major uproar, leading to several resignations. Without our patented parts, Jason couldn't produce their main products. He tried to contract with other factories, but I had already spoken with them, and no one would take the order. In the end, he resorted to importing parts from overseas, but the quality was poor, resulting in a flood of complaints. The situation became so severe it made local news. It's only a matter of time before they go under. Harrison started working at our factory, of course, as a regular employee. He's being rigorously trained by his colleagues. Now, I'm eagerly looking forward to the growth of both this factory and Harrison. I'm sure my son and daughter-in-law would be pleased too.